I'm T. Rick Jones. I'm the managing editor.
And I'm Chris Post, contributing writer.
I'm Aster Lufkin. I'm also a contributing writer.
And this is your daily Star Trek news roundup for the week of February 4, 2024. The first thing I want to talk about is the Saturn Awards were last Sunday. It was a big night for Star Trek. I think the biggest award that was given out, and we'll talk about each of the awards, but I think the biggest one that was given out was the Lifetime Achievement Award for the cast of Star Trek: The Next Generation. So, talk to me about what you thought when you heard that announcement. What is it a good thing? Were you excited? What are your thoughts?
So my first thought was, wow, Star Trek did really well. They really cleaned up. I love Star Trek, obviously, so yay for the home team. But then my Gen X cynical thought was, did Star Trek really deserve all these awards, or is this a love letter to Star Trek from the Saturn Awards voters because of the big question mark around Star Trek and everything that's happening with Paramount?
Yeah.
Oh,
And did you come to a conclusion?
You know what? I did not really come to a conclusion on it. I hope it's just that the voters felt that the actors and everybody associated were deserving of the award. But sometimes we know that awards are more than just awards. Sometimes it's a statement, and so I think maybe that it might have been a statement saying, "Hey, Paramount." People want this content. Don't keep shelving. Don't keep sidelining. Don't keep monkeying around with this stuff that people like and people want.
Yeah, yeah.
I,
That would be a shame if it was just sort of a signifier award and not like a deserved award. I hate playing favoritism, even if it's a franchise we love with Star Trek. Aster, what are your thoughts?
oh, I mean, Chris, I definitely see what you're saying, and I don't know. I'm an optimist just in general, so I think of like specifically Picard season three was astounding in season three, right? Was astounding in every way, and I think even if it was a sort of call to Paramount, I think the actors definitely deserved the awards they got, and also the Next Generation is my favorite Star Trek show, so I think they totally deserve that Lifetime Achievement Award with zero bias, obviously. But I mean, that show had a lot of impact on so many people, and I think, I mean, having as a younger person having watched it, it still remains so relevant and so true and can speak to so many people. And I think the cast is astounding. So I mean, I think they definitely deserve
I
those
think,
awards.
yeah, I think if there hadn't been Star Trek: The Next Generation and the its enduring appeal to multiple generations of Star Trek fans, I don't think that we would have the Trek that we have today. There might be something, but it wouldn't be the full blossom of Trek that we have today. Just because people so connected with the Next Generation. I mean, Voyager had its fans, DS9 had its fans, but the Next Generation really has rippled out through time, touching generation after generation. And so I completely agree. The Lifetime Achievement Award for Next Generation was wholeheartedly deserved. Picard season three, it was good, but I wonder, did it just feel good because season one and season two were not good? Like season one of Picard is, I mean, I watch everything Star Trek, but season one arguably was not good storytelling. It took way too long. It was very bloated. It should have been a two-part episode of The Next Generation. It should not have been an entire season of a
I
show.
I believe with season one, they started filming before they were done writing the show, if I remember correctly. So I think that accounts for whatever the hell was happening in the second half of that season. They realized they did not have enough episodes to wrap everything up.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think the Lifetime Achievement Award. I grew up with TNG. I mean, I became a Star Trek fan right before TNG started. So I was watching the original series, and then the Next Generation started, and I think that cast and everybody involved in that show deserves a lot of credit, as Chris said, to bring, it basically what happened there opened the door to all other Star Trek.
Hmm.
If it weren't for the original series, there would be no Star Trek. But if it weren't for the Next Generation, Star Trek would not have continued. And the strong writing, especially in the later seasons, season 3 and beyond, I think there would not have been, and the strong acting as well. In terms of, I tend to agree that I'm not sure. I love Patrick Stewart. I love Jonathan Frakes. I love Jerry Ryan. They all won awards. Um, I tend to agree that, and I haven't seen every Star Trek or every science fiction series that's out there, but I tend to agree that there probably was something a little bit, something better. I think it is possibly a comparison to the first two seasons. But also it's interesting that the three people that won awards were legacy character actors. Picard's Riker and Seven of Nine. It was nobody new. We didn't get Michelle Hurd, who I think deserves all the awards. I think she's fantastic in that series. Um, or Captain Shaw, whose name I'm forgetting now, actor name, but he was wonderful. Like a lot of people deserved awards in that show. And
Yeah, well, I mean, season 3 was good. It was certainly much better than season 1 and season 2.
yeah,
It's certainly season one as a Star Trek fan. Season 1 was rough for me to watch. It was one of those ones where it's kind of one foot in front of the other march to get through the episodes. And so like I said, I love it, but I'll be critical of it when when I call it like I see it. And season 1 was not good. Season 1 of Discovery was not good, in my opinion. And so a lot of the new Trek shows have really had to kind of struggle to find their footing. But so did the Next Generation, I
right. I
guess.
was going to say
So
Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager. They all had their missteps in season one. The Next Generation season one, there are a few episodes throughout which are pretty good, but in general, season one of the Next Generation was not great a lot of the time.
Well, I believe
no,
there's what's the rule that Star Trek shows only get good at season 3, and that's fairly consistent across most
Fairly
Star Trek
consistent.
shows. Yeah. I will say I have a very skewed opinion of Picard because I actually watched it out of order. I watched season 2 first and then season 1
Oh,
because I heard season 1 was so bad that I didn't watch it. But then I knew someone watching season 2, and I was like, "Well, I'll watch season 2." Like I don't need the context. And then I ended up liking season 2 a lot, so I went back and watched season 1.
yeah,
So I
season
sort
two
of
was okay. I think season three was the best in my opinion.
yeah, I agree.
I think in a lot of people's opinion. But I watched the series again. I like, even bad Star Trek is good Star Trek in my opinion. So moving on. So Aster, you just did a review of Picard's Academy, which is a comic book series that just wrapped up from IDW Publishing. Neither Chris nor I have read it. You seemed to think it was pretty good, huh?
Yeah, I loved it. I really like wholesome pieces of media, which is why I'm a big Star Trek fan. I think a lot of times it can be sort of a downer and dark, but I think it still has that wholesome, like nice undertone. Um, and that's exactly what Picard's Academy was. It felt a lot like a nice warm hug, which I think everyone needs right now. And I sort of reading I the vibes it had is sort of what I'm hoping will come from the Starfleet Academy show. It's very lighthearted, and the problems they're facing aren't world-changing problems. It's their final exam. They're not gonna die, but it is lighthearted, and you're not the stakes aren't that high, but you still manage to love the characters, and they're all very compelling, and it's very lighthearted and fun. And so it was sort of exactly what I needed as a sort of stress release, and I think it's perfect.
Oh, that's great. That's awesome. I'm curious. I'm going to read it at some point. I do read the comics. I just haven't gotten around to it yet, and I didn't have to review it because you were reviewing it. So, so I'll get there. There's a lot of media to consume. Um, so if you want to check out Aster's reviews, they're all on dailystartreknews.com. You can just type in Aster Lufkin, or you can type in Picard's Academy and in the search bar, and it should come in our newly fixed search bar, I should add, and it should come up. So that's great. Next up, the Star Trek Adventures uh, tabletop role playing game, which I have not played, but I've seen some of the books. It seems pretty cool. Everybody who's played it says it's cool. They've just come out with a new expansion. This is it's called the Federation Klingon War Tactical Campaign, and it's about the Federation Klingon War that takes place in Star Trek Discovery, early in Star Trek Discovery. Um, so I know you are a gamer, Aster. I don't know if you game at all, Chris. I don't tend to play tabletop role playing games, but I always find the books interesting to glance through. So, what are you guys' thoughts on that?
I I've never played the Star Trek role playing game. I've wanted to. I just can't get enough people together to play it with me. Um, and I mean, I have played other role playing games that take place in space, and I found that oftentimes,
Hmm.
like when a game's taking place during a war, it can often get really complicated and hard to keep track of. Um, so I'm really curious to see how this expansion does, in the sense that wars aren't actually that fun in tabletop role playing games because they tend to have a lot of politics involved. And while it's interesting, it can be hard for players, especially if you're only playing for 1 or 2 sessions. So I'm curious to see how this is, and I'll probably find a version of the module to just look through.
That's cool. You know,
Yeah.
they have a solo version now out. You should grab that off and play that.
I
It'd be
I
fun for you
I
to
do want to. Yeah.
play.
Yeah,
uh,
and now I haven't played this latest version. I have played Star Trek tabletop role playing before, but it was years ago. The old FASA Star Trek role playing game system. So I would be interested to play this one. I do play role playing games, but mostly Dungeons and Dragons and Star Wars rather than Star Trek. But one of the things I do like about the role playing books, though, is the background information that you can get. One of the things that I like to kind of deep dive into sometime is like ship schematics and like how many crew different classes of ships could have. So often with Star Trek in film and television, we see the hero ships, these big top of the line flagships. But one of the things that I did like about Star Trek season one was La Serena, this little ship, skeleton crew, tiny little ship. Those are my favorites in Star Trek. When you see like somebody like Mud, who's just out there, one guy with the ship, plying the space lanes. Those are the kind of stories that almost really kind of grab my attention sometimes. And so a lot of times these manuals, and especially ones that have to do with warfare, are really good at giving you that background technical information on some of those ships, and especially little ships like scout ships and little attack cruisers, and fun things that you only seem to see as background when we're fighting the Borg, in space. Like, oh, there's a saber, like, oh wow, there's a Jaeger class, and it's like, yeah, it's there for like 2 seconds, and then it gets blown up, and then we go back to the Enterprise bridge. So,
I agree. That's what I don't do a lot of role. In fact, I don't think I've ever played any tabletop role playing. Um, but I that's what I like about them too. I like looking through the books and like looking at all the information you can get using them as reference. I cracked a few open when I was writing trivia for Daily Star Trek News. I cracked some open to find some interesting, background information. They're really interesting books to read, and sometime I'll play one probably. Maybe I'll pick up the solo one and try it just on my own first, and then and then find some people to play with. But yeah, I think, and the books tend to be like nice additions. Like very often they're like hardcover books and things like that are really nice sort of souvenir books too sometimes. So, um, yeah, I agree. It's interesting, but I appreciate what you said, Aster, about war is not really fun to play. um, so we'll see how it does. I know one of our writers, Alex, plays Star Trek Adventures, so maybe he'll pick it up and let us know how it is. So. Um, Next up, we've got Rosalind Chow is voicing a new edition of an audiobook for a Chinese science fiction novel called The Three Body Problem. Now, in physics, the three body problem is trying to figure out the future position of three planetary, or not planetary necessarily, three stellar bodies that are orbiting each other. So, like, you take the position of the Earth, the Sun, and the Moon as they are right now, and then you try to predict where they'll be in 100, 1,000, a billion years. It's that's what the three body problem is in physics. In this novel, um, it takes place in the past, present, and future, and it's about these three different times Earth's encounter with an alien race that is from a a solar system. Sorry, I'm just trying to get this right. It's from a solar system where there are three stars that are orbiting each other. And that's the sort of the elevator pitch of the novel. It's apparently a great novel. It's won awards. It's had an audiobook in the past, but Rosalind Chow is about to be in the Netflix series that's coming out in March. So they had her do a new recording of it. And Rosalind Chow, as Star Trek fans will know, played Keiko O'Brien in Star Trek Next Generation and then in Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Um, so it should be pretty cool. We'll see. Do you guys have any thoughts?
The three
Well,
body problem has
oh, go ahead.
has been on my to read list for I think 4 years now. My physics teacher my freshman year of high school was like, "You absolutely have to read this book. It's the best book I've ever read," and I haven't touched it. I want to. I want to pick it up. I actually almost I listen to a lot of audiobooks because I have a long walk in the morning, um, and I almost just got it on audiobook, and now I'm really happy I didn't because I think I'll get this new audit. Hopefully, it's on Audible. Get this new version and listen to it. So I'm really excited.
I think it will be on Audible. I think it's coming out on Audible. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So yeah, I have a couple of Audible credits left to spend, and so it's in my mind it's going to be one. But I'm also looking forward to seeing the show. I think the character of Keiko is sometimes maligned by Star Trek fans, and but Rosalind Chow is a really good actress, and
yeah,
so your feelings about Keiko O'Brien as a character aside, she's been on a lot of stuff, Joy Luck Club, and a lot of other non Star Trek things, and she's really good. And so I'm looking forward to seeing her on screen in another science fiction project. It's always fun for me to see Trek actors doing other things, but when they also are doing other things that are still science fiction, that's a bonus for me because science fiction is one of my favorite genres.
absolutely. Rosalind Chow and Keiko O'Brien were not my favorites when it was happening. I just didn't. I was like, I don't really. Um, but they've grown on me. There are several characters in the Star Trek universe, and Keiko is one of them, who I did not like initially, and now it's grown on me. And as I look back I just watched Data's Day the other day, before this news broke, which is Keiko O'Brien's first episode, and she's really grown on me as a character. And I'm always happy to see Rosalind Chow show up and stuff. So I'm excited to see what she does in this series. I do want to read the book first, and I think the way I'm going to read the book is to actually listen to the book with her voice. Um, I always like to read the source material before I watch the show. So, yeah, I'm excited to see what comes of it and see how the book is. I'm excited to read science fiction that is not and watch science fiction that is not Star Trek because I watch a lot of Star Trek, especially since I took over Daily Star Trek News, and it's kind of refreshing to go in another direction. So I'm looking forward to that as well. That should be pretty cool. Um, and we'll just see. And Aster, since you took physics, was that an okay explanation of the three body problem? I've never taken physics.
I don't know anything about physics. I took
Great,
physics and I passed physics. I am not a physicist.
fantastic.
I barely could do force diagrams. I think the three body problem is way above my pay grade.
Excellent. Then we'll just say I'm correct, and all you physicists watching can write into me and tell me how wrong I was. Uh, the last piece of news we want to cover is news with a big question mark, which is Star Trek Discovery now has a release date. It appears. It has been reported by TrekCore that April 4th is going to be the release date of the first episode of Star Trek Discovery Season 5, which will be the final season. Um, Nowhere else has this been said, and before I report on something, I like to have some confirmation bias, and we don't have any confirmation on this. The only outlet that's reporting it is TrekCore. It seems likely that it will be sometime in April or maybe May, but we don't have any confirmation. So talk to me. What are you guys' thoughts about that?
Well, I'm always excited for new Star Trek. With so many series in production, I wish that they would stagger it so that when one ends, the next one starts. So I don't ever have to have like any Star Trek withdrawal. Just 5 series, just 10 weeks each. That's just give me Star Trek in a steady stream. Waiting around for
I
it
fit into your
is
vein.
but yeah, but no, I'm excited for season 5. I really liked Discovery after the time jump. So I have a problem with prequels. I have a lot of problems. I guess I'm just a grouchy guy. I'm realizing as we record this, I have a lot of problems with a lot of things. What grinds my gears? But I have a lot of problems with prequels because they end up with like either technology that is too advanced for the time period, and we're just supposed to like ignore the fact that like Discovery has holograms when the set was made out of plywood in the original series. And it's hard for me to wrap my brain around those kinds of things. So then when they jump 800 years into the future, then they can have all the new technology they want, and it's not a problem, and my brain is very happy, and I can just sit back and enjoy the science fiction. And so I've been very much enjoying Discovery after the time jump. I'm glad that Discovery was around when it was, because then it gave us Strange New Worlds, and Strange New Worlds is my favorite of the new Trek. And it's a prequel, so there I go, just contradicting myself. But um, but I'm really excited to see where they go. I'm excited to see the setup for Starfleet Academy, and see where they go with that. And so there's a lot of loose threads that are out there, and I'm very anxious to see how they tie them all up in this final season.
Yeah. What about you, Aster?
So I'm so excited. Discovery is my favorite of the new shows, and it was also the first Star Trek I ever watched, which is a weird introduction to Star Trek, I will say. But I have like a whole theory on the order in which I think you should watch Star Trek, and I believe that people who are like Gen Z should start with Discovery. I think it is a really good jumping off point. I'm getting so off topic. The point is, I'm really excited. I can't wait to put a countdown on my phone, so something to look forward to, and I hope it's April 4th because that's sooner in April, and the sooner the better. April 1st would be preferred. Actually, I have a big project on April 1st. April 2nd is probably my preferred Star Trek release.
But remember, the sooner it starts, the sooner it ends.
Yeah, but we have such a long Star Trek hiatus right now. I'm having to find new shows to watch. I don't know what to do. Like I usually just watch Star Trek and that's fine and I don't have to think about it. I know I can just turn on Star Trek and be fine. But now I'm like branching into new media and it's a whole new world and I don't know how I feel about it.
Well, maybe it's been good for you then. As a person, you've grown.
Yeah, I suppose. I did just watch the Lightning Thief TV show, which was very good.
Oh,
I do recommend.
yeah. I'm looking forward to season 5. I did not as much love after the time jump. I was very sort of uptight about all the things that they were changing in canon in the first 2 seasons until I was just like, but they're telling good stories, so just relax. And I took a pill and calmed down. And I'm enjoying the prequels. And just like, okay, so nothing, things don't match exactly, but we're getting, and I think Strange New Worlds helped me come to this realization. We're getting really good storytelling, um, even though they're messing with, even though Nurse Chapel and Spock are dating all of a sudden, and then they're not dating for reasons and things like that. That clearly had not happened in the original series. I'm okay with that now. I've gotten over it. As seasons 3 and 4, I actually didn't love as much until I rewatched. I haven't rewatched season 4 yet. I rewatched season 3 and I liked it a lot better the second time. Um, so I'm expecting that'll happen with season 4 as well. Season 5 looks like a blast. It looks like and I said this when I talked to Anthony Rapp last year. It looks like an Indiana Jones kind of thing, and he said, yes, that's exactly what it is. And and it's got Romulans, who are some of my favorite aliens in Star Trek. I love it when we meet the Romulans. So I am on board. I'm looking forward to it, and it's a shame. I had heard way at the beginning that they were canceling it. That they only planned to go 5 seasons, and then I think they were like, "Well, this is popular. We'll just plan to go however long we can go." And then when they got canceled, everybody forgot that they were planning on only doing 5 seasons anyway. So it's a shame that they're getting cut off without a super lot of notice. But I wasn't that surprised actually when it was announced that there were 5 seasons. So we'll see. My only hope and concern is that when they went back to finish to reshoot the end so that it was an actual conclusion, my hope is that they didn't screw it up. I want them to stick the landing at the end. And it's tough to do when you're under pressure to like change the last 10 minutes of an episode to close out an entire 5-year series. So we'll see. But I'm really looking forward to it coming back. So, and as you say, I need some new Star Trek in my life. And so April 4th, watch your feeds, because as soon as we have some confirmation, we'll report on the April 4th premiere, or whatever the premiere date happens to be. I just want to wrap up by saying, if you're a Patreon supporter watching us right now, thank you so much. Your support means a heck of a lot to us. We could not do what we're doing without you. We're in some financial straits right now here at Daily Star Trek News. So if you're not a Patreon supporter and would like to support us and help us keep going, Patreon support allows us to pay for our website hosting fees, our email hosting fees. We send out a newsletter, um, and our podcast hosting fees. And not only that, but it helps to pay our writers as well, who I think are pretty fantastic and special, and I want to keep them writing for us. So it helps with that. We're going to be adding some new Patreon merch. We're working on designs right now. But even before that comes out, if you want to see, we're going to be trying to do one of these shows every week. And I also do a lot of interviews, video interviews, and all kinds of things. And they are now, you can get early access to them on Patreon, so you can watch them 2 days in advance. And better than that, they're ad free, which if you're watching this on YouTube, you're watching ads as well. So Patreon supporters, starting at the $1 level, I know there's a free level now, but starting at the $1 level, Patreon supporters will get the early access to these ad-free. So your support means the world to us, and even that $1 a month helps us out a lot. It really keeps us going. So please, if you're able to, we would really appreciate the support. End of speech. Chris Post, Aster Lufkin, thank you so much for joining me. We'll be doing this again in the very near future.